The NBA has been under much scrutiny by both its own media and the sports world as a whole because of how the league's been ran and general frustration around the product of the NBA. It seems to be at an all-time high, so I took the task upon myself to research and find out what the NBA and its media can do to change the current outlook of the association. Before this video gets started, I wanted to hear from you guys, so let me know in the comments what you believe the NBA can do to improve the basketball product, and let's see if I touch on any of the stuff you guys have said in the video. The first idea I'm saying is more positive media coverage about the actual game. NBA media right now is overly negative. They focus much more on who did poorly than who did great, and even when players do great, the narratives are always clouded in misery, talking about this guy's a shot checker, free throw merchant, just stuff like that. That's always a narrative. The fact of the matter is, in basketball, people only care about tearing others down. Building each other up in the sport is no longer the goal, and changing that would be astronomically successful for the league. This is something that I've seen a swing of from channels like Enjoy Basketball and Kenny Beecham, and here at the fourth quarter, we're trying to follow in these footsteps and have many people enjoy the game, so hopefully we can grow and succeed in that. My next point would be more emphasis on the actual specifics of basketball. Talk more about good set plays and how players get open. Talk more about defensive schemes and how to guard certain players. Talk more about the specifics of actual small game inside basketball. Because if people get more invested in the depth and understand the game better, it'll be more enjoyable to watch. People are watching, specific things with coaching. You're watching coaching adjustments. You're watching defensive alignments. You're watching set plays off of inbounds. This is stuff that I think also grows the game because I think a lot of kids, if they learn the game the proper way, they learn more about this stuff. Just gotta educate more people about stuff like this. I think that's gonna be very important for the future of the league, both as a viewer and for new players in the future. My next point kind of goes back to an old one, but that's lift up young stars instead of tearing them down. This one's huge and goes back to the media negativity. Young stars in the NBA aren't marketed nearly as much as they can be, and not as positively as they can be. We need to talk more positively about young players, instead of when one has a bad game or even a bad stretch, tear them down, talk about trading them, and honestly make their life miserable. And also, just everyone lives to tear people down in the NBA, and especially in media now. NBA as in the fans. And I think if we kind of change that narrative and actually built up the basketball, be like, hey, my team's winning because it's good. Every ring doesn't count nowadays. That's how people talk about it. Everything doesn't count. Everything's this, everything's that. This is because of this is because of that. Instead of just appreciating the good basketball going on, and I think that would really change everything. This next one is about a change to the schedule. More emphasis on in-division play, more game against rivals in your own division instead of cross-conference, creating better rivalries. Divisions in the NBA are pointless. To prove that, I'll do a little challenge in the comments. Without looking it up, name every team in your favorite team's division. Some of you definitely could do it, but if you can't, I don't blame you one bit because the NBA has no focus on divisions and the rivalries within them. I think making more games between division rivals instead of cross-country games would be huge for the NBA and also cuts down on travel costs and carbon emissions, as well as make rivalries more emphasized. I think this would be huge. I don't think, for example, that the Orlando Magic and the Utah Jazz need to play twice a year. Quite frankly, there's no point of that. Have them play the Hawks more often. Have them play more teams that they're rivals with. Play Miami more often. Make these rivalries more exciting. I think that gets people a lot more excited for the game. People love rivalries, and in-division rivalries are super important. Next, let's talk about the NBA Cup. I say treat it like the Champions League in FIFA, where they have the in-season tournament qualifiers like normal, and then the winners of that, instead of going to the bracket, they qualify for a bracket against some of the best international teams for the NBA Cup championship, growing both the game internationally, introducing new styles of play, and actually getting people excited for this, and actually different type of championship that has some added weight to it. Right now, the championship doesn't seem like it means much. Lakers and Bucks won it, but no one says that's a huge thing for people's accolades or resume. But I think if you're having them go against teams like Real Madrid in Spain, you have a lot of German teams. I think, French teams. I think this is a great way to both market new players from Europe who will eventually come over to the NBA. Say like Victor Wembanyama a few years ago, so with the Mets in France. If he went off against NBA players, I think that would get people really excited for the draft and this guy to come over. And I think that's something that would be a huge emphasis and super important for the NBA to do. I think this would be great for them. I think this would be great for growing the game both ways, as well as because they want the in-season tournament, they want the NBA Cup. You have teams qualify throughout the season like normal, but then they go on to play these teams, and then there'll be a championship, an NBA team versus a European team, and I think that's something that could really grow both the EuroLeague and the NBA. Sticking with a bit of an international theme, I have the All-Star Game. They should do Team USA versus the world, which they are doing at first, and if it's initially successful and when talent gets higher, do the Four Nation style tourney that the NHL introduced and did very well with USA, Canada, France, and Serbia. We all saw the 2024 Olympics in France and saw how hard the Team USA and everyone played for no extra incentive, but that they were playing for their country, they were playing for gold, and their country having international competitions like this can get players to truly try for the All-Star Game and not make it the slot fest it is. I think you can still keep the three-point contest, the dunk contest. I think having G League guys, WNBA players in these as well, I think that adds extra incentive because the NBA guys aren't going to want to get beat by anyone else but NBA guys, maybe top college stars even, or top international stars. I think that's something they could add to the All-Star Game as well. I think just give them more incentive because there's guys who want to get their name out and shown and hungry. And I think a guy like Mac McClung, who's going to, the dunk contest, that's his Super Bowl. So I think that's something that, you get more guys like that. I think you got to create more interest, and that thing is a great thing for the All-Star Game. Next up would be a slight change to the play-in. The play-in cut off teams below 500. They aren't eligible for the play-in to stop mediocrity, and there's no reason a team who loses more games than they win should get a chance for the playoffs. And introducing this rule would push a more competitive NBA landscape with better games throughout the year. I think teams close to around that 500 mark, if they are in the play-in around 9 or 10, I think then that creates a situation where these teams will have to push more for games because they could be comfortably in the play-in, but if they're not over 500, if they're close, they're going to have to win games. I think just having the most possible amount of competitive basketball games throughout the year, the most games where people care about, is the best possible thing for the product of the NBA. And I think doing this stops mediocrity and also makes the playoffs more important and harder to get into. Next up, I have a slight change to the draft. For penalties, for tampering and other things like that take away second-round draft picks for teams, give the picks to the teams that was the other team in the situation that got shorted. Say whatever, the Jalen Brunson situation with the Mavericks, the Knicks tampered, they lost their second-round pick. That second-round pick should go to the Mavericks instead of just getting voided. And I think the reason for this is not necessarily to give those teams extra picks, but to make sure that the guys who are getting drafted 59th or 60th get a shot to get drafted. My last idea is scheduling involved, and that's get rid of back-to-backs and instead make the wait between playoff games shorter. The playoffs take way too long and people lose interest in the playoffs, especially when they're lasting months. This year, obviously going to a Game 7 in the NBA Finals will obviously make it always go longer, but the playoffs are simply too long and you could take less days between games in order to shorten playoffs and give yourself more time during the regular season to get rid of back-to-backs. The main problem with back-to-backs is you'll miss stars playing. People won't want to buy Lakers tickets if Luka and LeBron aren't playing, which is a simple fact of life, so it's in the NBA and viewers' best interest to get rid of back-to-backs as well as shorten the playoffs, which go hand-to-hand. Obviously, people can make the argument that, these players should be able to play back-to-backs or getting paid millions, but the simple fact of the matter is they're not. So what you want to do is eliminate them so you have your stars playing every game, as many games as possible. And I think the wait between playoff games is way too long as is right now. So I think you could really shorten the playoffs, keep the playoffs more condensed, make it people keep interest. It's hard to retain people's interest over 2 months, but say a month and a week, month and 2 weeks, whatever it is, I think it's a lot easier to maintain people's interest for a shorter period of time. So I think shortening the playoffs would be great for them. It also gives you more time in the regular season to this. So it's kind of a two birds, one stone kind of deal. But I think that'd be a great change for the NBA. Thank you all for watching. This was the fourth quarter. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Really trying to make better NBA content every time. Trying to make, good stuff for NBA media and trying to push, the NBA to be as good as it can. So have a great one. Thank you.